So this is a little addendum to the art of dreaming. I've been practicing on my own dreams, and what I've done isn't anything too extravagant. I'm not looking for my hands or trying to even look at items. All I've been trying to do is pay attention to my dreams while I'm having them. And then when I wake up, which, being older happens a little quite often, and remembering my dreams then. And, going over the dream, what parts I can remember once I wake up. And a lot of time going back to sleep and seeing if I can continue the dream or the next dream, remember that one. And I've always felt that I continue dreams, which I'm not too sure that I do. But I have done it a few times in the past, go back to sleep and go back into a similar or same dream. But so that's basically what I've been doing. I've been doing pretty good at it as far as remembering, I don't remember everything in every dream, but the key elements that seem to, one of the things I've tried to restrain myself a little bit from is trying to analyze the dreams. I mean, I analyze them a little. It's kind of obvious. Or if they're specifically trying to tell me something that's so obvious, I'd be an idiot not to understand. But in general, I'm not trying to Jungian my dreams and by super analyzing. So anyways, yesterday I put on online there the second gate of dreaming. And in it, Castaneda, what was the part of, he deals with the inorganic beings, of course, right? And prior to that, for a few days now, I've been thinking, where do your thoughts come from, right? Type thing, who knows? That, and this isn't rational, I thought about it rationally, obviously, once I thought about it, but where it originally came from. And that is just what I've been thinking is that, well, look at it, if the inorganic beings live literally 1,000,000 years or however long, hundreds of thousands of years, right? And we live nanoseconds in relation to that, right? And sorcerers or other people become attached to them, wouldn't they obviously come back, the same inorganic beings come back to different people in different lifetimes? Because to them it's only you've only been gone out of the room for a second, kind of thing, and oh, he's back, right? And so I was thinking that, well, wouldn't that be a case of, inorganic beings, having, multiple lifetime relationships with whomever, not just sorcerers, right? So that's, I've been thinking about it a lot, but it was in the back of my mind, right? And so I had a dream last night, and in the dream, the key elements that I remembered when I woke up, one of them was, pretty obvious. But I'll give you a little more of a view of the dream till we get to the more, the obvious part. And that was, in the dream, there was a group of people, a good friend of mine was in the dream. And there was 3 or 4 people in the dream, but he had brought this woman there in the dream. And we were like in an apartment or a house or something. We're all talking, and I was specifically talking to the woman. And she was a young woman. I'm, in my 60s. She was probably in her 20s. And we had a good relationship, me and the woman. We were talking. And all these other things. There was a smaller person, like I wouldn't say a midget. I was watching, oddly enough, I was watching NYPD Blue last night, and they had a kid. He was actually a kid, and it was kind of odd show. And the kid played a midget. So he played somebody 27, but you knew it was a kid. It was not a midget. And the kid, but he acted mature. Like he was a 27-year-old midget. It was a pretty strange show. And that was what this kid was like. He was like small, but he was older, but he was a kid, So he was there. And the woman and I and the whole little entourage of us were having a good time there. And I'm talking to the woman in the dream, and suddenly we go for a little trip. And what I did in the dream was I was in Vermont. I felt I was in Vermont where I lived, but it wasn't anything recognizable about Vermont, but it was in the countryside. And so we went for a little trip, and I was flying along, and I was looking at lawns. I'm not kidding you. And it wasn't like vast, expansive lawns. It was like a small little back, windy Vermont road. I remember one of the lawns was really just field grass. And it was, it wasn't even much. It was like a 4 foot wide strip of field grass in front of somebody's house. But that's what I was looking at, the lawns in front of the houses. So we did that for a few minutes. And then we're back in the house again. And we're in this group talking. And the little guy knocked something off the counter or something behind me, and I go over and it's a box of instant potatoes, and I get mad at him. I go, gee, why is it always my shit that gets destroyed? And I grab the box of potatoes, it's wet or something, and I get mad at the little guy, right? So I feel bad about that. And later on, I apologize to him later in the dream. I go over and shake his hand, and I apologize to him for getting mad at him. And so after I get mad at him, I'm back to talking to the woman, the young girl there, or whatever, young girl. And now we're sitting right next to each other. And at some point in the dream, this is a long conversation. I can't remember anything about the conversation other than the feeling of the conversation that we're getting along good. This is a good camaraderie ship in the conversation. And next thing I know, she's laying on top of me, and she had a dress on of some sort, and she was attractive, of course, and of course, but I mean, she was, of course, doesn't have anything to do with it. So now she's laying on top of me, and the dress, it comes undone. It's like a loose fitting dress, and it's a dream. I don't know how it comes undone or anything like that. But now she's laying on top of me very tight to me, and she's a small, lithish person, so it's not some big buxom thing going on. But she's laying there, and it feels pretty good, and she's very, very close to me. Like when my cat sits on me, they dig into you, sort of like really bury themselves in. And so now I'm realizing I'm old in the dream. Naked. I don't know if I guess I was naked too somehow. Felt like I was, and she's laying there on top of me, and I'm not saying I have sexual thoughts, but I have kind of she's pretty attractive here, right? And so she's also feeling the sexual thoughts, but I'm saying to myself, well, as a sexual thought, I'm an old man here. What is this going on here? This is a 25-year-old girl, whatever she was. And so I don't kiss her, but I kind of almost kiss her cheek a little bit. I kind of nuzzle her cheek, I guess. The old vice president guy there, what's his name? And she does kind of the same to me. And we've kind of had this agreement, there's not going to be a sexual thing for a second. And then, she just lays there with me, and then the dream is over. I somehow wake. I think I go over and apologize to the little guy, and then the dream is over. So I wake up and I start thinking about this, okay? And one of the things, well, like I said, I'm trying not to analyze the dreams. And I analyze this after what I'm going to read you in Castaneta's book here, okay? Because that's where we're going with this. And so this is kind of, later on I analyze this. My friend in the dream was he's a lifelong friend. I grew up with him. And at one point, about 20 years ago now, I lived in Vermont here, and he came up, and him and his girlfriend at the time, who would later become his wife, were in the crack mode, you know what I mean? He had been a very successful guy and got divorced, and he met this girl, and they got into the crack thing. And so they're kind of this traveling Wilbury show, going around visiting different friends, and till I guess they wore out their welcome, and so they come out and visit me, and at the time he had to get his license back, so he had to go back to California to keep getting his license. So we kind of dropped her off here. She's a very beautiful young woman. She was in her 20s, and what do you call it? And so I when she first got here, the first few days, let's say some beings around me, I already went to that crap, let me know that this is your mother from this life. My mother had died, quite a while earlier than this, right? And I'm there for, first of all, I didn't believe it, but without going into that whole detail, I come to believe that, okay? And now I spend 3 weeks, almost a month, more or less, with this woman, and 80% of it, 90% of it, just me and her. And so, we build this relationship. I get to know her. She has all these issues. I'm not going to go into her issues or all that jazz. Just say that, I'm a believer of this thing, okay? And so what I do with this woman, I don't consciously do. I have a hard time not having sex with her, because she's pretty promiscuous without going into the whole story. And, but, I do because, hey, it's my mother, to me, from my other life. And, because of her issues, I know that this is a wounded being and I don't want to take advantage of her. I mean, not that, many other people wouldn't. But I mean, I'm just saying. So this is the scenario there. And so we have this pretty good relationship. It's up and down a little and all that jazz. But, finally she leaves. I dropped her off at the train station to go back to California. And, we had an excellent little moment there, the last day we spent together. And, I didn't give her hardcore advice. I just, tried to let her know who I was and what, had value to me in my life. And she took some of that with her. And she tried to really change her life. And she would call me from time to time. But things didn't work out in the long run for her. She got back into the crack and she became a high-priced hooker for a while. But then she's gotten out of that and got back. But what I was getting at, I gave her back some of the things she gave me, when I was younger, when she was my mother in my mind view. So, in the long run, it did work for her, I guess, or helped it work for her. But I would come to find out later on from my friend that all the people that he had stayed with and stuff, they get divorced and hate each other and all that jazz now, And that he stayed with all these, including psychologists, friends of his and stuff, and they all slept with her. I was the only one that didn't sleep with her. So that marked me out in her mind, and his too. And so anyways, this was the story, all right? And now he's in the dream bringing this woman. So this is what I relate to later on after I read what Castaneda said, okay? And now I'm going to read you what I read this morning after the dream in Castaneda's book here. Now what he's talking about is there is a voice, the voice of dreaming. I don't know if he specifically calls it that, but I'm calling it that. And this is what these couple paragraphs are about, okay? To say it's an alien energy that has consciousness doesn't help me at all, Don Juan. What kind of energy? Benign or malignant, right or wrong, what? It's just what I said. Alien energy, an impersonal force that we turn into a very personal one because it has a voice. Some sorcerers swear by it, or even see it, or as you yourself have done, they simply hear it as a man or a woman's voice, and the voice can tell them about the state of things, which most time they take as sacred advice. Why do some of us hear it as a voice? We see it or hear it because we maintain our assemblage points fixed on a specific new position. The more intense this fixation, the more intense our experience of the emissary. Watch out, you may see it and feel it as a naked woman. So, after I thought about that stuff after reading this and thought about the relationship I had with the woman that my friend Brian had brought in my life prior, I got to thinking about the past life scenario with inorganic beings. And then I also thought about the chapter I had just read yesterday. There's a point in the chapter, if anybody who's paying attention to this, where Castaneda wrestles, in the second attention, he wrestles with one of the inorganic beings, and it's laying on the desert floor, and he leans down, and it clings to him, and they come up as one, and then the inorganic being lets him go. Well, that's exactly what that woman felt like on me, as if when he described coming up with her, the end, like as if we were one thing combined together. So I feel like what they are trying to tell me, what the inorganic being in this mode, or the emissary, as Don Juan would call it, is trying to tell me is that we do have past, have many lives with the same inorganic beings if we choose to. Because I've today I've had a little discussion mentally with them, and I think they know where I stand. But you know, so I'm beginning to believe that inorganic beings, because if you think about it from even from a rational point of view, if you live 60 or 70 years and they live 250,000 or 500,000, they could have relationship with you for hundreds of lifetimes if we live that many lifetimes. So anyways, that was just my little synchronistic scenario today. And I'm going to put this up online. I don't know how long I'm going to leave it up there. I'm going to have to listen to it to see, but I'll leave it up there at least for the people who are reading the book anyway. So, all right, thanks a lot.